Today's lecture is devoted to the modern English period dated from AD 1500 to the present. This period falls into three stages. 1. Early Modern English, the 16th and 17th centuries. 2. The 18th century. 3. Late Modern English, the 19th and 28th centuries. In the early part of the modern English period, the vocabulary was enlarged by the widespread use of one part of speech for another and by increased borrowings from other languages. During its development, modern English borrowed words from more than 50 different languages. The 16 pronouns came into use, replacing the genitive form his, which was the only form used by the translators of the King James Bible in 1611. The progressive tenses developed from the use of the participle as a noun preceded by the preposition on. The preposition gradually weakened to a and finally disappeared. The complete alteration of most vowel sounds in stress syllables. All long stressed vowels came to be pronounced with a greater raising of the tongue and closing of the mouth. Those vowels in which the tongue could not be raised without becoming consonantal became diphthongs. The major change in the history of English that resulted in new phonemic representations of words and morphemes took place approximately between 1500 and 1600. Very often when a word ended in a combination of two consonants, the second one was dropped. When a word contained a combination of three consonants, the one in the middle was sometimes dropped. Such phonetic changes widened even further the discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation. More strong verbs became weak and the third-person singular form became -es instead of -eth. Adjectives lost all endings except for in the comparative and superlative forms. The neuter pronoun it was first used as well as who as a relative pronoun. While all these important developments were underway, British naval superiority was also growing. In the 16th and 17th century, international trade expanded immensely, and loanwords were absorbed from the languages of many other countries throughout the world, including those of other trading and imperial nations such as Spain, Portugal and the Netherlands. Among these were French, for example, bazaar, ballet; Italian, for example, carnival, fiasco, arsenal; Portuguese, for example, breeze, tank; German, for example, kindergarten, noodle; Dutch/Flemish, for example, bale, spool, stripe, holster; Norwegian, for example, maelstrom, iceberg, ski, slalom, troll; Icelandic, for example, mumps, saga, geyser; Finnish, for example, sauna; Persian, for example, shawl, lemon, caravan, bazaar, and tambourine; Arabic, for example, harem, jar, magazine; Turkish, for example, coffee, yogurt, caviar, hoard, chess, kiosk, tulip, turban; Russian, for example, sable, mammoth; Japanese, for example, tycoon, geisha, karate, samurai; Chinese, for example, tea, typhoon, kowtow; Polynesian, for example, taboo, tattoo. The 18th century was characterized by attempts made to standardize, improve, and fix the English language. The English attempted to establish an English academy in the effort to set up a standard of correctness. B. English lexicography made a substantial contribution toward standardizing the language. The earliest dictionaries were etymological dictionaries. Dr. Samuel Johnson's Dictionary of the English Language in 1755 appeared the landmark in the development of English lexicography. In this dictionary, lexicographical technique approaches contemporary standards. The early grammarians had the following aims: to stabilize English by setting up certain rules, which should govern the language. They did not recognize the importance of usage as the basis of correctness. To point out errors in order to correct and improve the language. They based their methods of approach on reason, etymology and the example of Latin. By the end of 19, the USA had overtaken the UK as the world's fastest-growing economy. The American dominance in economic and military power, as well as its overwhelming influence in the media and popular culture, has ensured that English has remained the single most important language in the world and the closest thing to a global language the world has ever seen. In 1917, Daniel Jones introduced the concept of received pronunciation, sometimes called the Queen's English, BBC English or public school English, to describe the variety of standard English spoken by the educated middle and upper classes, irrespective of what part of England they may live in. The invention of radio and television disseminated archetypal English accent to the masses and further entrenched its position. Since the Second World War, a greater permissiveness towards regional English varieties has taken hold in England, both in education and in the media. Here come the references to the literature used. Thank you for your attention.